Mariah's Executioner's Sword, one of Elden Ring's most legendary weapons. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, you are missing out. This thing shreds bosses. Free DLC, DLC, post DLC, it doesn't matter. Today, we are putting it to the test to make it as best as it can be and show why it might be time to bring this beast back for your next playthrough. Let's jump in. First, let's talk about what makes this weapon special. Mariah's Executioner's Sword comes from the Shaded Castle, which can be found right here, and that makes it perfect to switch into for late game and DLC content. Sure, it's demanding, 24 strength, 14 dex, and 23 arcane just to wield. It is 100% worth meeting those requirements. Strength has a B scaling, contributing to 50% of the weapon's total damage. Arcane follows with a D scaling, adding about 41%. Dexterity with an E scaling, barely scrapping in with an 8%. The takeaway here is simple. You pump strength, you add arcane if you got the points, and you ignore dexterity completely. Mariah's overall damage is split into 74% physical and 26% magic. Being predominantly physical is key, and later on I'll explain exactly why that is what makes this weapon feel downright broken. Let's talk about what to expect when using the weapon. The normal attack numbers are decent. Two-handing gives you about 16% more damage. Heavy attacks boost that by another 62%, and if you charge the heavy, you get another extra 47% on top. But honestly, none of that comes close to the weapon's skill. The skill alone can pump out over 200% more damage right out of the gate. The skill is called Yokade's Dancing Blade. The skill launches the sword forward in a wild, spiraling drill motion. The animation looks insane, but the damage even better. The skill is split into two parts. The drilling motion makes up the bulk of the damage, accounting for around 68%. The finishing slash covers the remaining 32%. The skill can be used in two ways, charged or uncharged, and this is one of the coolest features of this weapon, so lock in because it's very important. Charging the skill gives you a 44% damage boost with a slow cast, but it also extends the range of the attack by a significant amount. Just look at the difference. That extra range is a game changer. It gives you the flexibility to adapt depending on the boss and the pacing of the fight. You can stay back using the charged version for more damage at a distance, or you can get up close to land faster hits if you need to play aggressive. And one more thing. If the animation feels too long or you are in danger mid-attack, you can actually dodge to cancel out of the second part, letting you deal damage, then reposition without committing to the slower finishing slash. Now the real question is, which buffs are worth using to make this skill better? To answer that question, we put it through a full series of tests, looking at exactly how different items interact with this skill, and most importantly, which ones are actually worth using. First, Shard of Alexander. It gives you a solid 14% boost under all circumstances. Godfrey icon is nearly identical with a 15% boost, but only kicks in when you charge the skill. Since the weapon's skill triggers multi-hits very fast, one of the best items to use are the Winged Sword Insignia, the Rotten Wind Sword Insignia, Millicent's Prosthesis, and the Thorny Crack Tier. But when you use any of these with Mariah's Executioner's Sword, the results go way beyond what is intended. Rotten Wind Sword Insignia normally caps at 13, but on this weapon, it pushes the damage to a massive 32%. Millicent Prosthesis usually sits around 10%, but here it jumps to a whopping 26%. And the real heavy hitter, the Thorny Crack Tier, skyrocketing the skill with a 52% boost on its own, the single largest jump among all buffs. Why? because every spin, every slash in the combo keeps feeding into these successive hit buffs, stacking the damage higher and higher with every tip. You are not just getting one bonus, you are stacking bonuses on every spin. And when you layer all these three together, you get 167% more damage. That is crazy. Just these three buffs alone can rocket this weapon to one of the best, if not the best. Flame Grant Me Strength adds a solid 16% instead of 20. It is worth using 100%. Golden Vow throws in 15%. It works exactly as intended and worth using if you can reach 25 Fate. The Blood-Sucking Crack tier gives you around 20% more damage, but it is super risky, so use it with caution. The Magic Scorpion Charm adds a 2% boost since it only affects the magic portion, and the Magic Shrouding Crack tier only gives you 4% as well. Either is really worth using. Finally, the Rakshasa gives you a modest 8% increase, a nice little bump if you want to squeeze every bit of power. If we take a look at a combination of these buffs together, we can easily reach a 513% damage increase. That is kinda cool, considering only the Blood-Sucking tier is the annoying part. With all of that, the only question left is, which ones are worth using that are easy to use as well? To answer that, I've got two deadly builds lined up for you. The first build is all about getting the most out of the skill as early as possible. It is designed for players who want to get ready for the DLC with a deadly and balanced setup. It deals up to 163% damage and requires you to be around 100. You can comfortably be higher or lower. The second build is Pure Aggression. It is all about stacking as many damage multipliers as possible to transform the sword into a literal boss blender, however, without crazy setup. We want that ease of use as well. The second build deals up to 356% damage and requires you to be around 150. You can comfortably be lower or higher as well. Starting with build 1. For the weapon, we are obviously going with the Marais Executioner Sword, so I'll max it out to plus 10 or go as close as you can be. You can grab it by beating Elmer of the Briar at the Shaded Castle in Altus Plateau. And here's a tip, you can actually get there early by skipping the Dectus Lift and heading through the Ravine Veiled Village route. Now for the armor, we're going full style and function with the Blythe set. Black Wolf Mask, Blythe's armor, gauntlets, and greaves. Not only does it look incredible, but it gives you solid, balanced defenses. For the talismans, use the Warrior Jar Shard for a flat 10% skill damage. Just be aware, you'll lock yourself out of the better version later. I would suggest you wait till you finish Alexander's questline. If you want, you can swap in the Green Turtle Talisman for a 17% faster stamina recovery. It is really useful. For the second slot, go for the Godfrey icon to add a 15% to charge skills. It will proc when you charge the skill, which you should be doing unless the boss is super fast. For the third slot, go for the Windsword Insignia or Rotten Windsword Insignia, whichever one you have, to boost your damage with multi-hits. For the final slot, go for the Great Jar's Arsenal to lower your equip load by 19%. This way, we can stay mobile even with this heavier armor without having to spend a lot of points into endurance. For the physic, go with the Opaline Heart tier for 15% damage negation, and pair it with the Thorny Crack tier for that 20% damage on successive hits. It is 52% in our case, like we said. And finally, the stat spread. 50 Vigor for survivability, 9 Mind or as low as it can be, no need to level it up further, just carry a couple of extra FP flasks, 18 Endurance to keep your medium roll and stamina roll with this setup, and go for 50 Strength or as close as you can be to pump that raw damage. 14 Dex to meet the minimum requirement, and 23 Arcane as well. Now let's get into the second build. For the weapon, we're sticking with the Marais Executioner Sword fully upgraded to plus 10. Again, you'll grab it by taking down Elmer of the Briar at the Shaded Castle. In the offhand, we're adding a Finger Seal so you can cast key buffs like Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength. For the armor, we are going with the Rakshasa set. It got 30 weight, 58 poise, and a flat 8% damage boost. If you're not comfortable with its low resistances, swap in any heavier armor that keeps you at a medium roll. For the talismans, complete Alexander's quest to use Shard of Alexander for that 14% skill damage. Use Godfrey Icon for that 15% boost when you fully charge the skill, which you should do whenever you can. Use the Rotten Windsword insignia to ramp up damage on successive hits up to 32% in our case. For the final slot, you can use Millicent's prosthesis if you are in New Game Plus, or just simply use a talisman for extra protection depending on the boss, like the Dragoncrest Great Shield for physical damage, the Flame Drake Talisman +3 for fire fights, or the Golden Braid Talisman if you're going up against holy damage. For the physic, use the Thorny Crack tier for the massive boost on successive hits up to 52%. It is a must-use in either build with this weapon. Pair it with the Opaline Heart tier for a 15% damage negation across the board. If you're feeling aggressive, you can swap in the Bloodsucking Crack tier for an additional 20% damage boost, but fair warning, it is high risk, high reward. For the buffs, use Golden Vow before fights for a 15% damage increase and 10% damage negation, lasting for 80 seconds. Pair it with Flame Grant Me Strength for a 16% physical damage increase for 30 seconds. Both of these give you far better returns than just ramping up more strength or arcane. For our stats, go for 60 vigor for great survivability. Go for 10 mind, enough FP to cast the skill multiple times. You don't really need to upgrade mind. 24 endurance to medium roll with the full armor, 60 strength to deal ideal damage with the weapon, 14 dex just to meet the minimum requirement, 25 faith to cast our buffs, and between 30 to 50 arcane to push the damage even higher depending on your level. One ideal synergy you can use with the weapon if you have is Melania's Great Rune. It restores health based on hits, which is perfect for a multi-hit weapon like this, a match made in heaven. Is Marais' Executioner Sword worth the investment? Absolutely. It has to be an S tier weapon, definitely one of the best in Elden Ring. With its flashy high scaling skill and massive buff potential, this weapon transforms to a top tier PvE powerhouse. It is demanding to wield, but if you get your hands on it early, you are set for the rest of the game. This beast can shred any boss you encounter in the game. If you've been sleeping on this sword, it's time to give it a try, honestly. And if you want to see another legendary weapon breakdown, check out this video on the one and only Rivers of Blood.